TitleMatchNetwork.com.
As far as working AWA, what was the loops like for AWA? Because eventually you went on to work a little bit for AWA.
You bet, you bet. Oh my goodness, yeah. And I'll tell you something. Gagne was one of the best payoff people, promoters in our business, and it was good. We did a lot of flying at that time. When I worked the territory, me and Johnny, we were tagged up. I worked the territory before. I worked in the 60s, but I learned just like everybody else at that time. There was you didn't become a superstar overnight.
Right.
You didn't.
You paid your dues.
You bet, you got to pay your dues. Oh, I did job after job and for everybody, and I was so lucky to be right there in Chicago area, right there, 30 minutes from Chicago, Hammond, Indiana. So in 300 miles, I could go this way and be in Detroit for the Chic. And I go this way, 150 miles, I'm in Indianapolis for Bruiser. This way, another 300, I could be in St. Louis for Sam Mushnick. This way, 400 miles, I can be in Minneapolis for Verne Gagne. So I had all 4 territories, but all I would do is go and do TV, for them and do jobs on TV.
Right.
And that's how I learned. And then they all took a liking to me. I was so, God bless, I was so blessed with that, and so fortunate to be. Everything's timing, in life anyway. But they seen something they liked or whatever, and then all of a sudden they started giving me a few house shows during the week, and then all of a sudden, I would have to go Broadway, with someone on the second match, and then they'd slip me over a little win, and then not on TV. But then on TV, I did a little short 10-minute Broadway, and then one time they gave me a win on TV. I mean, all the territories.
Right.
See? So I seen it changing because you can't be there, and they know that. They said, this kid's got a future. They won't keep you there. Now, if they say, this guy, man, God bless, he may just go a certain level and never, progress, get better or something. And because it takes 3, 4, 5 years to learn everything, psychology and everything. But if you don't learn it within 5 years, you won't get it. You'll never get it. You'll just stay at that same level. So if they think that you're that way, then they'll just keep beating you, and now you're labeled, now you're whatever. It's hard to come up from that.
Right.
But if you start out like I did, and they just gave me a little this, a little that, and then finally they says, we got to get him out of here. So Verne says to me, he says, we just bought in Verne Gagne, Fritz von Erich, and Bill Watts all bought in for the Leroy McGurk NWA in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Bought into that territory. That was Oklahoma and Louisiana and Missouri and all. They bought into that. And he says, we want you to go there. They're looking for just a young kid. Just go there. And he says, he says, we got you a job. He says, you're going to make $300 a week. And he says, it'll be good for you, Jimmy. We need you out of here, because they seen something,
right.
And
they wanted to bring you back when you got
you
smart.
bet.
Yeah.
So I did. That was the start of my career.
So what was the first? That was the first run, major territory. That one right there, by all those guys.
Yeah. Far as there's no job. I mean, completely different. But I was making my living because I was working for 4 different people.
Right.
And I quit my job. But this was the first, just one territory, and I made the move, and of course, and then I didn't go as a star. They beat me on TV, brother, first time in.
Right.
Same thing, but then they started moving me, and then from there I stayed there. I stayed there 4 months, and then Fritz von Erich had the spoiler, Don Jardine.
Yep.
Yeah, he had the spoiler say, get a hold of that kid, because they came up to do TV. Their boys in Oklahoma City would do TV for Tulsa, and they would say, I went in as they didn't want to use Valentine because of Johnny Valentine, so they called me Jimmy the Body Vallon.
Ah.
And so I went in there for that, and he says, Fritz wants you to call him. Jardine Despois said, Fritz wants you to call him because Pletchus, one of the referees there, Danny Pletchus, an old-time wrestler, he came up with the boys to take care of that from Dallas, and he seen me there on TV, and he told Fritz, man, there's a young, good-looking kid there, and he says, boy, you know, we should get him out of there, you know, because he seen me just doing that. And so Fritz called, of course, he called Leroy and got the okay, and because they all worked together, we're all partners. And he says, yeah, it'd be good for the kid. So he's brought me in, and here's the whole thing. I'm making $300 a week, which I was right on the nose. And this is back in the 60s, man.
Right.
And that was, hey, if you had a regular job in the 60s, you would bring home $110 a week. I mean, I'm talking about a factory job, you know, anything, you know. That's
so you're having fun traveling and making $300.
You bet,
Yeah.
you bet. But here's the sticker was for Fritz says, we want you to come in and be here. And he says, you're going to make $400 a week. See what I mean? So there's another 100. So it's a no-brainer. Man, boom. I moved the family to Dallas.
Now, before you went to Dallas, you worked a little bit underneath. We were talking about AWA. You were around a lot of legends. I mean, Larry Henning was there, Dick the Bruiser, Rene Gagne. You mentioned Bill Watts, Luke Graham, Blackjack Lanza. I mean, there's a lot of big time wrestlers there. Any stories with any of those guys? Any of those names ring a bell as far as like any good memories? Lars Anderson.
Oh, you bet, you bet. You know, my goodness, big Axe Henning. Me and Johnny worked with him. Now this is after we went to New York and got our break, and now we're the Valiant brothers. We were, WWWF World Tag Team Champions for 13 months. It was at that time the longest anybody ever held, and we beat Tony Gurria and Dean Ho for him. And brother, we went around the loop, and we were the only one to go to Madison Square Garden. This was 1975, and go to Madison Square Garden, and it's always Bruno on top, single world WWWF tag team champion. I mean, world champion. Me and Johnny, Luscious Johnny, Handsome Jimmy, we were the WWWF World Tag Team Champion. So it was the only one. We beat everybody. So they put Victor Rivera and Haystack Calhoun, you know, you name it, they put together. Monsoon and you know, Putski. We'd beat everybody because they're building the big one, the Dream Team. And I turned against Strongbow because when I went in.
We're going to talk all about that coming up. Oh, yeah.
Okay, real fast. But we were the only time that Bruno put his single belt world championship aside, and we had 2 shots in the Garden against the Valiant brother, Captain Lou Albano. Okay.
When you went back to work for Verne, what was Verne like as a booker? Did you get along with Verne?
I did. You know, Verne was, again, you know, you put up a lot for money, brother. And again, I told you he was one of the best payoff men. Paul Bosch was, I told you, in Houston was a great payoff man. But I got along very well with him, and he was a little hot-headed.
Right.
God, I mean, you know, he was fired, and I tell you, he was went to the Olympics as a second. I mean, he was a real amateur, and he could do it, and he could get on you, brother, man. He was the real deal. But yeah, I got along. I mean, hey, you know, hey, the money was there, and I lived there, right there, and they flew every night, you know. And we just worked maybe 3-4 times a week. It was a real easy territory. Coldest territory.
Yeah.
Oh my
Minnesota.
goodness. Yeah, we'd go Minnesota, we'd go to Winnipeg, and North and South Dakota, and oh my goodness, man, them winters would just kill you. They're killers.